All right, we are live. Welcome, gentle plebs, to episode number 56 of Plebchain Radio. Today is Friday, April the 12th. It is 4 p.m. on Central Time at the time of recording. A very special show for you today. It's the second time Plebchain Radio is doing it in front of a live audience, an in real life live audience. We always do it, KW, in front of a virtual live audience.
Correct.
On Nostr. But last time was in November at Bitcoin Park, and now here we are at Bitblockboom 2024 Halving Edition in Austin. And, sorry, not Austin, it's Dallas. What do I say? Dallas. And we have a really special show for you today. We have two very special guests. We have Uncle Rockstar developer joining the show for the third or fourth time. I've lost count at this point.
I mean, I just developed a taste for you, Avi, and the culture you represent. And
Pheromones.
Yeah, pheromones. We will hear more about that, yeah, I assume.
But also the man of the moment.
Also his third appearance, so both of them struck third. They come in threes.
But
Let's go, number three.
But the man of the moment, Santos, who is the brains behind both the Lightning and the Nostr workshops that we've had today in Dallas. Can we have a round of applause for Santos?
You all give me too much credit. Thank you. Rockstar has flowers for you. For after. Thank you, Rockstar.
Yeah.
So, I mean, wow, Santos, of course. Obviously, you're my good friend and Nostr Phoenix. We've been doing some really magical things together, which is really exciting. And that kind of brings me to our sermon today: signal and noise. People get caught up in statistics. They're looking at the Nostr.stats, the zaps, the active users, all these things, but really that's just noise to me, because we're in this environment where we're building things together, we're building things in their community. Nostr is a big landscape, an ecosystem of just so much excitement, so much encouragement of each other. That's truly what's remarkable to me, and what the signal is today. The users will come, the old adage, if you build it, they will come. I saw multiple things today that were just exciting. I stayed for a lot of the workshops, popped in, popped out. You can just feel the energy. You know what something is happening here. So much so that, it's really starting to move into these Bitcoin events. It's sell the purple, they buy the orange mentality, a way to expand our cultural net. I mean, for me, that's the signal and noise. How about you, Avi?
No, it certainly is. I mean, you look at what's happening on a day like today, all the amazing workshops, both on the Lightning side and on the Nostr side, and there's so much to look forward to from a technology standpoint, and all the use cases that'll be enabled, especially on Nostr. And then, there was the sovereign engineering cohort in Madeira who did an incredible job. I mean, just looking at everything they're building for Nostr, especially on the other stuff, was incredibly exciting. But I have a question for you, Rockstar, which is, we're talking about the signal here, right? Which is all the incredible work these developers are building. We're seeing that at the SEC, the Sovereign Engineering Cohort in Madeira. We're seeing it here today. But then you look at some of the stats, which, granted, you could say are the noise, as QW was saying, right? You look at the zaps, they're plateauing or going downwards. You look at the user retention on Nostr, right? We've been kind of stuck at 20,000 weekly active users for about the last 6 months now. What do you think is the reason for that disconnect? Because there is so much exciting development happening, but we're not quite seeing that inflection point where Nostr is completely taking off.
Yeah. I mean, I am one of those people that is pointing to the stats, and that those stats are important, but it all comes down, how do you define signal versus how you define noise? And the way I do that personally for myself is, noise is everything that doesn't allow me to productively spend my day and focus on my own, truth. So signal is what helps me do that. With Nostr, that there is nothing really that can, persuade me otherwise, because to me, Nostr is an idea which time has come. It is quite obvious to me that in the future, more and more people are just gonna use cryptography to prove everything, starting from I wrote this message, to like I took this video, I took this picture, I participated in this event. Because with advent of AI, it will be pretty much impossible to verify if a certain video was really recorded, and Putin recorded a video saying he launched nukes, and video like that will come out on social media, then will it cause response? What will it happen? You all probably saw those videos that technology now can produce, and to me it's quite obvious that people will, over time, again, I was lucky to be involved with Bitcoin early on. Like, everyone thought we were insane, And with people that are on Nostr right now, it's the similar thing. It's like, why are you guys wasting your time? Why aren't you on Twitter or X? Because if you post there, you're going to get more likes, more retweets. People don't get that those individuals that are on Nostr, they're not there for likes and engagement. They're there for the idea and to be part of that idea and movement. So, yeah, to me, that movement is unstoppable. And while it's important that we look at numbers and more as a reference, like, we shouldn't be too distracted by them. We should, if anything, it should motivate us to work harder, do more, because, again, to me, Nostr is idea whose time has come. Avi.
So, Santos, what do you think? I mean, what Rockstar said makes complete sense, right? That there are people who ought to feel this way, that the technology is there, and the system is in a place where you have these deep fakes. Like you said, someone could make a Putin deep fake that could launch World War III. But if you look at the public outside of the hardcore Bitcoiners and freedom tech lovers, Nostriches, do you get the sense that they're at that point where they realize what a threat they're facing with the level, with these centralized communications platforms?
I think that many groups don't realize like how important that is until they need to realize it, and then it's a bit too late. So I think it's great that we have these pioneers and these communities that are hyper-focused on these problems. Like Rockstar said, everything he said was 100% true. And I think in terms of like noise versus signal, not only caring about like the censorship aspect and the ability to verify whether or not someone has actually produced a note and who produced that note, to be able to know whether or not it actually came from that person or not. There's no reason why on like a social media platform or centralized social media platform that they could post on behalf of someone else. Like, how would you verify that if Facebook had some sort of objective or some sort of like political alignment? So I think that is an absolutely critical part that Rockstar highlighted. Some other like signal parts is like generally, just like Bitcoin, you have these different rabbit holes that you'll fall down, where you may start out in crypto, and then you may end up in trading, and then you end up becoming a Bitcoin maximalist. Obviously, that's like a dramatic simplification, but that's kind of like a journey that we see repeated for a lot of people that's entering this space. I think Nostr is similar. Like, you have groups of individuals that don't realize there's this problem, whether it's like owning all of their events or notes, or being able to take your identity across other platforms, or being able to verify like something's produced. That utility in and of itself as a technology is superior to like existing social applications. So now you can carry that with you wherever you want. And I think some big signals are that we have many application developers solving problems with this like core technology base, which also gives the benefits that Rockstar highlighted. In addition, like, there's significant utility to be able to carry that identity, to be able to own your own notes, to be able to verify. And I think another big signal is like you have these like boom and bust periods where you have like this huge growth of users, and that's not really sustainable. That's not really what you see like product growth looking like. Typically it's like up, down, up, down, up, down, and it's like kind of like this crazy squiggly line, but over time it's up and to the right. So I think things that like dramatically impact this, especially with like newer technologies and protocols, is like UI UX improvements. Like how can we make this like simpler for more and more people to access over time? And then lastly, like growth in high value actives. So like, what does that mean? So it's kind of like product terminology, but like, is there a growth in the core community? Is there a growth in builders? Is there a growth in creators that are producing content, informing people of the advantages of these technologies? And I think we do see that constantly. Like we see core growth in the builders. And that's really what it's all about here at Bitblockboom, with the workshops, with the speakers, the culture, the community. That's what we're fostering. So like, for example, running AZ Bitcoin Network, we were never concerned about like putting out like marketing promos, like raffle tickets or giving away money or anything like that. Instead, what we focused on as our growth strategy was like, how do we like get people here and actually give them solid Bitcoin education, a solid foundation, so they retain and they understand Bitcoin, not just like one presentation, get them there with a raffle, and then they never come back. Maybe you have higher numbers, which looks great to people that are like VC or startup minded, but like Rockstar said, this is an idea, it's a movement, and it's superior technology overall. So like we want to grow people and help them grow themselves so they grow other people as well. And that's exactly what we try to do. So I think those are like kind of the three like major signals that I look at.
I mean, you bring up some great points, but to me, it's really how do we grow Nostr beyond just being Bitcoiners and then, I don't know, Jack's fangirls. Like they see the Nostr with the early population, and then that population has evolved through zaps, right, Avi? Quite something. But it's really how do you have interesting conversations on Nostr, and how do you involve more people? And I hope events like this, like you have some interest, bring it to Nostr, and you can, and not do it for the community, do it for yourself. I always advise people to try to do what I've done with dedicated identity for Bitcoin. And it really worked well for me because my whole Bitcoin identity is separate from private identity. And Nostr allows you to do that very easy. It's just a private public key pair. You can always generate a new one. Explore your interests, do stuff that's interesting to you. Just find what are 3 accounts that you would like to interact. And, if you do that, if you have that critical group, you can through Nostr develop identity really well. So just an idea. Yeah.
In regards to growing Nostr, I know you're really excited about something, and that would be gaming in Nostr.
Yeah.
Where do you see that going? Just you, Santos.
I think gaming in Nostr will be quite huge. I mean, gaming is inherently social. Like most of the time you play with your friends, you get achievements, you get reputation, you get items that represent something that's meaningful to you. And there's tons, millions, billions of people that play games. I mean, games are universal in every single culture. So I think as like one, the technology is like perfectly suited for it. Like thinking about like Crash Glow, for example, like decentralized or distributed like Steam platform. Game publishing traditionally, walled garden between like iOS App Store, Google Play Store, Steam, just to name a few. Like those are like quite gatekept, and we've seen like Epic Games raise many of these problems. And I think Nostr offers a unique solution. It's very early still, but you can see like absolute developments improving. So for example, you could create, use Eventkind 1 with additional tags to be able to create like a game store. Like anyone can fetch these games. You can even embed like an in-your-real pay, so you can even receive payment. And if the wallet supports the Let 17, you can even get the Lightning address on the incoming payment that you receive. And if your Lightning address is the same as your Nostr ID, or if there's another LUD, for example, to be able to get your Nostr identity as well, then you can also like issue an event at that time to say this person actually purchased this game, to be able to grant them access, or you could send them a DM similar to like one-time password that acts as like an access key, like you used to get with like PC games, for example, to be able to download the game and register. So there's all kinds of different things that you can do with gaming. I think that one solves problems of like game distribution and publishing, and then two, for like the user side, like actually gaming, like when you play World of Warcraft and you hit like some sort of achievement like Gladiator, like 0.1% of the world, you want to take that with you. That means something to you. You dedicated an enormous amount of time to be able to get that good. So with Nostr, you'd actually be able to take that achievement, for example, to another forum, to another social client, to another application, and show that. And I think like we've been missing that on the web, and something that would be incredibly valuable.
And I ask you that because I really think in the future, the Grow Nostr side of things is going to come from not the notes, but the other stuff. And the other stuff, there'll be people that are gaming and they have never been on Damus, never been on Amethyst, never been on that X replacement, and truly empowering that whole idea that Nostr is not an X replacement. It's an actual protocol that you can just dance around the ecosystem with just your name, you know.
Absolutely. And you see all kinds of different gaming communities pop up too, with like insane levels of engagement. So I think gaming will definitely fuel a tremendous amount of growth for Nostr.
And Rockstar, is Nostr taking over Bitcoin conferences?
I mean, it definitely is. From like we were the proof that Tidwell, there will be an Nostr side track at TabConf, right? Yes.
Yep.
Okay. See, it is. You're in. Okay. So it's happening. Okay. Because it is all continuation of Bitcoin and Nostr's relationship, with Nostr being Bitcoin's layer 3. So
absolutely.
So it's all symbiotic. So.
Shout out Odell on that one.
Yeah.
He was the one that actually came up with that, I believe.
I think a lot of the pushback we get on, that's right, Odell was the one. Matt Odell from Citadel Dispatch and Bitcoin Park coined the phrase Nostr is Bitcoin's layer 3.
Yeah.
Now, I should clarify that, there is a very technical definition of what a layer on top of Bitcoin is. So Lightning, for example, is a layer 2. And I think when we say Nostr is a layer 3, we're not being literal or technical in that. It's more of a metaphor. Would you agree, Rockstar?
Are we doing this again?
Yeah, there we go. No, we will a little bit. No, I think one of the features of Nostr is just that weirdness, and the whole Bitcoin's layer 3 is part of that, because you all probably saw what happened last few days with Dorsey renaming him from Jack to Dan, and then everyone is confused, like, who is Dan? And then the whole situation with Sailor and that drama results in a meme where, like, okay, who is the source for Odell's claim? And then the Nostr did a meme with like Dan is the fucking source. And so I don't know how many of you saw, but to me it's worthy to join Nostr just for those moments, because those moments end up being the ones you treasure the most in your life. I just remember the early Bitcoin community and all the moments we had in the early Bitcoin community. I'm sorry that Tidwell is not a part of the panel, because he could talk a lot about early Bitcoin moments. Like, you should Google this guy and see when he interviews Craig Wright. It's a great moment. And then him and me, we spoke about it, and he was like preparing for months to prove that Craig Wright is not Satoshi. He did all this serious research. He went to Bitcoin Talk forums, and then Craig joins his podcast video. Like, you can find the video, actually. Fake podcast. He joins his fake podcast. And the first thing he says is like, okay, I'm not. Should I come out? So, and to me, it's really moments like that. If you're part of that, if you create that for yourself, or you just participate in some way, that's what matters. And yeah, I encourage everyone to go in that direction, including you, sir, that you're yawning. Like, this was very interesting what I said. What do you think, Avi?
So, on that point, I completely agree, right? I think the memes are what make the culture, and they push the culture forward. But let's talk about an outsider, or someone who's new to this, who's just joined Nostr, because they heard about all the different attributes and all the wonderful things from their friends, and they come in and then they start seeing everyone's changed their name to Dan, or right, and or they see all of these in-house memes that no one is aware of. I mean, they can feel a little left out, right? I mean, that is a bit of a challenge.
Unless they rename themselves to Dan, like Easy Solve, yeah. No, this is why I said that if you're joining Nostr, I would encourage that it's new identity, and it's an identity that through which you, explore some interest you have. You maybe are creating a game that you want to use, use Nostr. Maybe you're interested in cooking, so you join Cookster. Maybe you're interested in feet, so you join Footster. No, this is actually a real thing.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Explore. It is?
Pheromones come right.
Please tell us more about that. I don't know, Footster. I just
absolutely. I mean, for the new users, you're jumping from a legacy algorithm-fed driven experience, and now you have to kind of explore your new chronological early internet conversations, and you have to have that patience with the protocol. You have to engage. You can't just not follow anybody and not have anybody. It really requires those connections to enrich your experience. So it is something, I think, when someone first comes, they're just like, first of all, they're like, what is this? They're in global, which is just the random, God knows what's on there.
It's a stream of consciousness. Yeah. Frog memes
but you have to put in the work initially, for sure. I know people might be frustrated because they tried Nostr, but they didn't really do anything about it. You have to have patience with the protocol, so you have to keep engaging in these conversations, keep following people, and start catering yourself. If you want to go hashtags Footster, just follow Rockstar.
I'm not on Footster, but if you wish, we can do it together. Listen, you shouldn't lose patience with Nostr the way I'm losing patience with this headset. It's just insane. What you should do, again, like in the direction of exploring your interests. What happened to me, in a sense, like, I didn't know how to have a social media presence before the Rockstar identity, because I just never wanted to have first name, last name, Facebook account, Twitter account, LinkedIn account. I mean, LinkedIn accounts are the worst. You gotta like pretend to say all the good stuff so you get hired. And, my God. Then BTC Pay Server happened, and suddenly it made sense that I have a Twitter account, and all I did on that account was, hey, let me retweet Nicholas, let me post when I do something on BTC Pay Server, and that's the way I interacted with social media. And you brought up a great point, is this stream of consciousness, how do you interact with it? And I would encourage that you do find what is the critical group, what is your Nicholas in your example, or another person, that you can together explore that consciousness. Because what's also very different for Nostr, and you can sense that immediately, is that there is no profit motive behind it. If you're on Twitter, you will be fed by algorithm the worst parts of humanity, because that's what drives your interactions, and it drives them in the most despicable ways possible, because you're forced into those short attention span loops where they're perfect for interruption by ads. And if they can program you into those 10-second intervals, after which you see an ad, and then you get the new thing, and then you get the new thing, that's perfect. And you can be monetized. With Nostr, there is no such thing. Like, Avi, we don't have advanced onboarding that gives you, likes that look certain way and give you dopamine hits. It's just how to interact with the consciousness of Nostr. Maybe we do develop it in time through Primal or Zebedee or some company that does monetize Nostr. But for now, I would really say it's a feature. It's not a bug. I don't know what you think.
No, I think that works. My concern is still about, and because this is feedback I've heard. In fact, so I was just having a conversation with a gentleman who works. He's a Bitcoiner who works in oil and gas. So it's not even someone who's completely outside the space. And he joined Nostr about 4 or 5 months ago, and he scrolled through the global feed, which is, like Rockstar said, a stream of consciousness of what everyone's posting on Nostr. And he said, no one's talking about oil and gas and Bitcoin. Let me start writing about that. And he started posting, and I went through his some of his notes, really well thought out, long form notes. I think he was using Primal or maybe a combination of Primal and Damus, which are both iOS apps on Nostr, and excellent notes, really good content, zero engagement. So maybe we'll start with you on this one here, Santos, and then move to Rockstar. For a new user who's even a Bitcoiner, right, let alone someone who's from the outside world, a normie, if you will, right? They had trouble breaking through and finding a level of engagement. How do you think, as a Nostr community, we can address something like that?
I think exactly as you said, creating more content, creating more applications especially in niches where, one, you can form a community. I think community building is like the essential aspect to bootstrapping any application or any network. If you don't have community, you really don't have much. So I think that would probably be a critical aspect of it.
I have a suggestion, to increase his engagement. Like, give me his account, man. Like, we get we
gotta pump him up.
Yeah, like prop him up. And what you and you two are doing is also the way you address that issue. Like, you need culture of Nostr. You need to build, structure, infrastructure within Nostr, and it's just the work we need to do. That's how I see it. Let's see. Listen, I'm gonna now 200% X his engagement. Let's
Bitpetro.
Okay, Bitpetro.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then I'll zap it to be top zap for 4 hours on Primal. Gonna pump him.
Okay. Next problem, Avi. See, we're solving problems here. Let's go. I'm following him. Let me all know.
Is it? We just make sure it's the right one. But yes, because there are a couple of Bitpetros there. Next problem.
But let me. Yeah. So what Rockstar just did there, I encourage everyone to do. Reach out when you see people like that. You always boost. Don't be afraid to put. You really want everyone to get as much engagement and following as they can, especially initially if you're not getting that traction. So I think just as a cultural community of encouragement, things like what Rockstar is doing right now is very important.
Yes. You want to see what I'm doing? Actually, so
Is that Footster?
no. The problem is I renamed my account to Dan. So, well, I started with Dan, but then someone said Danus. And I love that because I was in a call with Will and Vanessa. They can confirm after the episode. And someone said, like, who was it? Was it Will? It was like, it should be D/anus. And and I've actually renamed my account to that. So Santos took a picture of me with Rockstar Coffee and posted it on Nostr, and it says LFG, the anus Bitblockboom. I mean, and I'm reposting that note. So for all of you on Nostr, you can see that. Oh my God.
It's Rockstar, real quick for folks who are not following the meme,
Oh my
which by the way I'm one of them.
Explain it, please.
Because one couple of days back I log into Nostr and everyone's renamed themselves to Dan and everyone's talking about Dan. And I said, what is going on? And I asked a couple of folks and they said, we don't know, but we're playing along. So no one knows the genesis of the Dan meme, Rockstar, unless you do.
Oh,
Well, yeah, exactly. So, but everyone saw everyone else doing it, so they changed their name to Dan, and everyone started talking about Dan. So, Rockstar mentioned Will and Vanessa. They're the creators of Damus, the iOS client, DAMUS, and they changed their name to DANUS.
Yeah. Well, I said Danus.
hyperdanflation. What's going on there?
So Rockstar, I'm just changing tracks here a little bit because I mean you're a major proponent of open source development, and obviously Nostr falls right front and center into that. Now, I unfortunately come from a very different world of closed source enterprise software.
Both of us.
Yeah,
I
well,
mean, I was part of that world, and I just grew tired of it because like big companies, especially, they're great at that. You can't become a big company unless you have very solid, rigid structure. It is very clear what in that structure should be done by certain parts of the structure. Now, how clear it is between people and bosses and employees, it's a different question, but the output it should always be somewhere, and if it's not, then it will propagate through that structure. And for most people, like, you want to be part of structures that make you better. And I've, in my life, looked around and like, what are the structures in which I thrive? What are the structures where I feel the best? And ended up in open source. For a long time, I looked into how to best contribute to open source, and was very lucky that the project I chose to contribute was on such upwards trajectory that it did wonders for me. And this is why to people I always advise open source, not as a technology, but more as a tool for your own personal like self-improvement. Like, find open source project that speaks to you and that you can contribute to. And it will, in my experience, do wonders for your own development. It just needs to be really like project that you use daily, where you're having some trouble, so it's motivating to fix it. And Nostr, coming back to Nostr, is so great because there are so many new open source projects coming up and coming right now. I expect there will be more companies. So it's another opportunity for people to, it's a frontier. It's something completely new. Do your thing, and especially if you can contribute to open source, go for it.
yeah, completely makes sense, Rockstar. But there is one challenge there. So I will challenge you a little bit on that.
Sure.
Which is agreed that open source long term is the way to go. But one of the advantages you have in enterprise software development is you get that coordination, right? You to an extent, economies of scale, right? You have a team of product managers, you have a team of engineering managers, you have Scrum teams, and they've made a lot of elements of software development very mechanical. So it just becomes very simple execution because you have these hierarchies that can execute and deliver products on a very standard sprint cadence. In open source, it's while you have the freedom to work on as a developer, work on whatever you want, you have a lot of, and Nostr is a great example, right? You have developers picking up projects that they're passionate about. Maybe they get some small grants to help them keep the lights on while they're working on it. But since you're lacking that coordination, you see some projects not taken fully to completion, right? And then developers moving on to the next one before they completed the last one. And then we have this ecosystem that's somewhat fragmented with incomplete apps.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. The question is, how much structure do you need? Like, what is the best setup for you? Because at the end of the day, you should be your own focus. It shouldn't be some abstract community or whatnot. It should be, what is the best thing for you? And if you are part of big corporation and you have a paycheck, you have health insurance, you have 401k, go for that. And then in your free time, like after work, you, instead of just laying on the couch and scrolling through TV channels, doing Tidwell, I don't know if you do that, but okay, I won't comment. Like, make Nostr a hobby that's active rest. Like, as soon as you sense your usage of Nostr is frustrating you or whatnot, it's not relaxing you, don't do it. And the same for open source. Programmers, well, maybe it is specific for developers. I don't know how someone not developer could do it. But you have tendency of developers, when you really get into flow, you want to code all day. And this is how it ends up being. You code during your work hours, and then when you have free time to relax, instead of relaxing, watching TV, you code something that's not mission critical as the code you need to do on your day job. So use Nostr, as you said, like, create identity, use it as an active rest, and then do not overdo it. Whenever you sense that maybe you're not managing to produce an outcome you want to produce, try your best. If you don't reach it, you somehow deal with disappointment and move on, right?
Well, Santos, you work at a company that has structure and presumably Scrum teams and product managers, engineering managers. What do you think about this? About working in a purely unstructured open source environment versus a company with some structure?
Bidwill's waiting. He's the super testnet actually told me he's head of Zebedee.
And Jeff is in Zebedee, and he'll be watching the streaming. And Andre, my God, let's see the answer.
It's interesting because I've worked at massive corporations too. Like before I joined CBD, I worked at Amex, for example, as a product manager on their global data repository teams. And now, like, transitioning to ZBD, I started working there like 3 years ago, a very early stage, and now we've evolved, into a later stage. And I've also contributed significant open source projects. Like, I open sourced my own platform, Emeralize. I've open sourced GHL, and I've also open sourced like many materials for like product design, building up small businesses, application design in general, and built in public in terms of community. So I think it's pretty similar to what you said. It's mainly about defining an abstract process that you can follow that's in alignment with like a software development process. So for example, starting early on, you can ideate, so generate a bunch of ideas, and then as a group, as a team, or even if it's just yourself, you can rank those ideas based on a few different factors. For example, like impact and effort and risk are like the three main ones that I consider, at least at CBD. In terms of like here, like in open source projects, I'm thinking mainly about like my own personal motivation, as you said, like what impact do I want to have on the world? Like most of the time, to be honest, I don't really contribute to other people's projects. Like in this case, at Bitblockboom I did, and at TabConf I have, but I'm more interested in like finding the thing that I feel like is missing in the world and building it, and then looking for other people that are like-minded to be able to do that thing. Because every time you have a massive protocol, which is really a massive network, each time you onboard another network, another niche, you're increasing it as a network of networks. So like the goal is for you to carve out your own projects and your own ideas as well and help others along the way do the same. But I think when you're focused on some problem that you're incredibly passionate about, the energy that you have is pretty much unlimited. Yeah, you exactly as Rockstar said, you enter a state of flow and you never want to put that thing down, and you just keep working at it until it gets to be a state that's usable by others. And you'll find that other people along the way will also help you. Like I can't tell you, when I was developing MRLize or DHL, I have these random anons that will message me and be like, hey, you have this bug. And I'm like, who is this person? They're like diving deep into my application. I haven't even released this thing yet. Like, how did you find that? You know, and it's absolutely amazing. So I think like having your own set of projects that you're very interested in, building the thing that you want to see in the world, and then helping others do the same, like the karma and the payback is massive. In regards to like structure at ZBD, our team is completely like a remote and distributed. So compared to like my experience at Amex, where, you know, you have an office, you go in every day and you work with people, you see the people that you work with, and you can move forward and have very rigid guidelines. It's interesting because you have to find new ways to work completely asynchronous. So like Loom videos, recording, writing detailed specs, and like understanding and communicating that, and then all of us working together to achieve that. Given that still like we're a relatively small company comparatively to the size of like a global multinational corporation, you have to find really clever ways to work and communicate, especially across different cultures, different time zones, so that presents its own set of challenges. So the goal is always to define an abstract process, and then to follow that, to communicate it, and then to follow it together. So ideate, design, execute, test. Just like Jonathan was saying earlier, you can take that abstract process and apply it to nearly anything, whether it be like designing an application, building a community, building an application, whatever it may be. So I think that's really the goal, and just to keep building, keep moving forward.
Yeah, you were mentioning how there are like weirdos following your repository and reporting bugs, right? Another Nostr feature, right?
Huge feature. Such a gift.
No, it's to me, life is so beautiful because you stumble through it. It is the people you meet along the way and interact with. You carry a certain truth within you, and pheromones as well. Man, at this point, we'll just come to my room. But you have that truth inside, and you should nurture that truth, and meeting other people who help you do that. Like, it's all about that. And Nostr, as a no algorithms, no third party consciousness, I think it will be immensely helpful to you. You just need to find a way to interact with it in a way that also helps you. Like, it can't be what we saw with Bitpetrol, but yeah, you just can't script for engagement. And then all of us as well, we need to detoxify from social media and the whole engagement I get is a measure of things. It's like, yeah, maybe it is, but probably not.
Yeah, on that note, I see it like as massive knowledge discovery too. Like, how valuable will all of that information be in the future? And I think in general, like new generation of Gen Z, they can spot like stage videos that are produced on TikTok or Instagram. They don't want fake. They want real, visceral, authentic experiences. And I think that's what Nostr brings at the end of the day.
Yeah, I don't know how much more time we have, because I would talk a lot about.
I think we have about 5 or 10 minutes left.
Yeah, and we do want to get to any questions.
Yes, let's do questions instead of me rambling about being fake.
Anything else, good?
You mentioned Fiat Java. I thought it was interesting in the news, a couple of weeks ago, or maybe even last week, Brazil is trying to censor what politics or something on Twitter.
Isn't that beautiful?
It's poetic. It's poetic that the Nostr was built by a Brazilian, and I mean, it's just that ideas. The time has come, and that's going back to what you said.
Well, just to shed some light on that news site of Kilobase, I believe it was the Brazilian government reached out to X, or formerly Twitter.
Yes,
and
Brazilian judge.
A judge, that's right, and asked them to ban certain accounts on X, and then because they were saying things that were,
in their view, Yeah, I can't.
unflattering,
Yes,
uh, and
illegal.
illegal. And then Elon Musk basically said, no, we're not going to do it, which meant that they risked being shut down in Brazil, which means, I mean, that's when Nostr steps in, right? Nostr cannot be shut down.
Yeah, and the big thing in that whole drama is the fact that you have individual like Elon now waging information war essentially against the chief justice or whatever is the guy that in Brazil, Alexandre. Like it's ridiculous the orders he issues. Did you see some of them? It's if you help someone set up a VPN to bypass from Brazil to bypass restrictions they have in place, you will be fined 20,000 US dollars per hour. So Tidwell, don't set up anything for Fiat Jeffs. You'll be $20,000 per hour. It's ridiculous. Yeah, Zebedee, well-funded startup. Pocket. My point is, there are now people upset at Elon Musk, and they say, "Oh, he's only doing that to boost his reputation or whatnot." The point is, you shouldn't, care about any of this as an individual. As an individual, you need to ensure that you do not end up in that same situation. And when you ensure that your freedom of speech cannot be trampled with, then you try to help everyone else be in the same position. So that's my biggest takeaway from the whole drama, because this will just keep happening. It happened in Brazil, it happened in India, it happened in Pakistan, Iran with the whole hijab thing. Like, if you want to wear a hijab, like, you should be able to wear it, but it shouldn't be, other people are forcing you to do something. And to me, it will all just keep happening, and these information wars will just keep growing in scale until there is a better alternative. And to me, that better alternative is Nostr or Nostr-like protocol, but private public key, sign a message, send it. That's the only way in the future.
And if you want to wear a face mask, it's only because you want to wear it, not because someone's telling you to wear it.
Yeah.
That's right. So let's maybe the last 5 minutes. Anyone has any questions? Go ahead.
Dan in the front. Dan.
So I'll just repeat the question for folks listening with the recording. The question was, is there such a thing as a uniform global feed, right? Is that even real? Right. Yeah, okay. So, right. So what is a global feed, and is it important to have that? So we'll start with you, Rockstar.
Yes, there is a global feed. It's different depending on the client you use. So it's really a global feed to me is all the people you follow and their notes arranged by time they sent it. So that's a good question. Yeah, that's a friend feed. You're right, actually.
Global is just all the notes that are published are assigned to the relink.
To the relink you're connected to.
Yeah,
that is your. So it's almost like there is no the mempool in Bitcoin, right? There is your mempool, your node.
Isn't that beautiful? Yeah, you're right. There is my global feed.
Right.
There isn't any global feed, and maybe that's something that needs to be built in the worst engagement farming way possible, and then you put newbies on that global feed and you monetize them. And it's Twitter 2.0. Right. No, you're right. Like, there actually is a global feed, but it would be important for onboarding. So that's my answer.
So there is a global feed.
You know the answer.
Actually, a local feed.
You know the answer, right? I feel like this is a setup, is what I've got.
That was my opinion. What do you think, Santos?
Yeah, I don't know if there is really a concept of a global feed, because it would be just dependent on, like, on the total number of relays, fetching all of the events and arranging them in chronological order, and there may be some clashing, so then you need to sort like those notes, especially if they happen in the same millisecond. So yeah, I don't think there is such a thing as a global feed, but it could be a relative global feed where it's like taking all the relays that you're connected to, getting all the notes and arranging them in chronological order from all accounts, or for what I mean by account is like key pair that are publishing notes to that particular relay, but it wouldn't be filtered whatsoever. So I would say you could define a global feed as something that is not filtered whatsoever or algorithmically generated, but fetches notes from all available relays. So that would be how I would define it. And then there's only like relative global feed, which would take the user's set of relays, fetch all the notes, and then render it in that order or in that format.
So relative global feed is really a local feed, right?
I think a local feed would be specific to the Nostr relay, one singular relay.
Yeah. Relative global feed is so much better than local feed. It sounds so much better. No, great question, man.
That's a good question.
Again, I now understand there is no global feed, and it would be great if there is one to onboard new people.
So it's important.
Yeah, more.
I find it support. Yeah.
Fia Joe.
Well, he doesn't have a lot of friends on there either, I don't think. Him and Simisol, I think, are best friends. Yeah.
Fia Joff is Gosu Joff.
Yeah, his pheromones need improvement, right? There. There.
Well, I think we have time for one more question. Is the question? Yes. So we've talked a lot about.
Okay, QE. Like you're on the pen.
Can you repeat the question?
I gave Rockstar a hug yesterday, and his cologne followed me for like 3 or 4 more hours, and he must have just got down to the lobby, and I gave him a hug, and it was fresh. So I smelled him for about 4 hours after that.
You say that with a smile on your face. I mean,
I'm just looking for another hug later, you know.
I can't believe this is being recorded.
Yeah. And the question was, we'd mentioned pheromones multiple times on the show.
Now everyone will know, man. Yeah, this will be fun.
All right, one more question.
There is. So, is there money to be made on Nostr? And the answer is absolutely, Surfer Jim. And I think you're perfect. Hear me out. The people that make most money on Nostr are these fangirls of Jack that came and then stayed. They're getting zapped daily. But it's girls. There are not many surfer dudes who are taking pictures. You should come in and like open Surfer Gym and make like, I'm going to zap you daily. How much per day? Let's go.
Avi, you went to Madeira, and you said there was 12 Bitcoin companies presentations, and 9 of them had some sort of a Nostr integration.
Yeah, so before I answer that, I'll just repeat the follow-up question for Jim asked, which is, what is the incentive, or is there an incentive for businesses to bring their audience or their business to Nostr and stay if there was a monetization opportunity? And yeah, I think to the point QW was making, we're seeing that happen now, right? I think in the last year and a half of Nostr, which is when it really broke out post Jack Dorsey, right? And when Rockstar says Jack fangirls, he's talking about Jack Dorsey's fangirls here. Or now as it goes,
Dan's girl.
Dan. But it's only been about a year and a half, actually even less, since Jack Dorsey, made that big splash with Nostr and it started growing. I think the initial wave was the building out of the Twitter clone and the social media use case, right? And Nostr is notes and other stuff transferred over relays. And then now you're seeing a big push on some of the other stuff. So in Madeira, there were a lot of startups that are building the non-social media use case applications. So I think to your point, Surfer Jim, we don't see that just yet, but I'm very optimistic about the next 6 months to 1 year we'll see that happening. All right, folks, I think that wraps us up.
That's it. A solid 1 hour.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Yes. Thank you all. And as always, we'll be dropping the recorded version on Fountain. Value for value, support.
Okay.
Grandpa, why do you have so much Bitcoin?
Well, it all started in the year 2023 when I attended a conference called Bitblockboom.
What's Bitblockboom, Grandpa?
It was a conference where people talked about Bitcoin. This was way back when we used something called the US dollar for money.
What? Bitcoin wasn't always the world's money?
If it weren't for great speakers at Bitblockboom like Jimmy Song, Adam Curry, and Preston Pish, we'd all be living in pods and eating bugs. Instead, I was able to avoid fiat enslavement and secure generational wealth.
F***ing legend.
Be the legend your grandchildren deserve. Experience the best Bitcoin conference out there and join the Bitcoin revolution. Bitblockboom, the only conference for true Bitcoin maximalists. Book your tickets today at bitblockboom.com and use the code BBB1 for a special discount.